All right, let's jump right in. We are living through this quiet revolution in how we all use money. The idea of a cashless world has been floating around for decades, but actually getting there, it's been surprisingly tough. So today, we're going to crack open the blueprint for what actually works, and then we'll look ahead to the next big frontier, a truly global digital financial system. To really get why this matters so much, we have to start with this number, 1.4 billion. That's how many adults around the world are still unbanked, according to the World Bank. I mean, think about that. They're living in a world that's almost entirely run on physical cash, which means they're pretty much locked out of the digital economy. This isn't just a small inconvenience, it is a massive barrier to financial inclusion. So that brings us to the real question, right? If digital is so obviously better in so many ways, why is cash still king in so many parts of the world? We've had credit cards for over 70 years, and yet cash just sticks around. What makes it so incredibly hard to replace? To answer that, we're not just going to sit here and talk about theories. Nope. We're going to a real-world laboratory. A really fascinating new study from the National Bureau of Economic Research did exactly that. They analyzed 3 different countries in Latin America that all tried to solve this exact problem, all at pretty much the same time. And here is the setup for what is basically a perfect natural experiment. You've got Brazil with its platform Pix, Costa Rica with Sinpe Móvil, and Mexico with CoDi. Now, take a look at their GDP per capita. They're all kind of in the same economic ballpark, and they all had the exact same goal, create a universal digital payment system for everyone. But the results? Wow, they could not have been more different. So let's try to crack the code on this one. How did 2 of these systems just see this explosive growth, while the third one, it barely got off the ground? The answer reveals the secret recipe for replacing cash, and I'll tell you, it is not what you might expect. And this chart just says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you have Brazil and Costa Rica, where their platforms reached over 80% of the adult population. It's a textbook, super steep S-curve of adoption. And on the other side, you've got Mexico's CoDi platform. It launched around the same time as Brazil's, but it has completely stalled at less than 3% adoption. It's a story of runaway success versus a complete non-starter. So what was the big difference? Well, the research points right to the starting conditions. In Brazil and Costa Rica, about 70% of adults already had a bank account. But in Mexico, that number was below 40%. This meant that for most Mexicans, signing up for CoDi wasn't just one simple step. It was 2 really difficult ones. First, you had to go get a bank account, then you could join the platform. That's a huge barrier to entry. So the really crucial idea the researchers identified is this concept they call a rapid low-income gradient. I know, it sounds a bit academic, but the idea is actually super simple. It's not enough to get the young, wealthy, tech-savvy people in big cities to use your app. Real success is all about how quickly you can get everyone else, people in rural areas, lower-income families, to join in. That right there, that's the tipping point. All of this data, all of this analysis, it brings us to a real blueprint for success. The study basically reverse-engineered what worked so well in Brazil and Costa Rica, and they distilled it all down to 4 key ingredients that any project needs to get a payment system truly adopted by the masses. First, make it cheap and easy to join. Brazil's Pix was totally free for people. Second, you have to build strong network effects. I mean, if your friends aren't on it, it's useless, right? Third, and this is so critical, coordinate the supply side. Brazil's central bank mandated that all the major banks had to participate. In Mexico, it was voluntary, which just created a messy, fragmented system. And finally, you need awareness and trust. Pix was advertised everywhere and had the backing of the central bank, giving it instant credibility. Okay, so we have the blueprint for success within a single country. But the world is, a lot bigger than that. This quote here really sets up our next challenge perfectly. That same problem of fragmentation that held Mexico back at home, it's happening right now, but on a global scale. So now we're moving beyond national borders, because solving payments inside your own country is one massive achievement, for sure. But what happens when you try to send money between countries? All that friction and all that complexity just comes roaring right back. And this is really the limit of the Pix model. It is an incredible system for paying someone in São Paulo if you're in Rio. But if you try to send that money from São Paulo to Seoul, you're right back to the old system of slow, expensive wire transfers. These amazing national payment highways, well, they don't connect to each other. So, how do you build a bridge between all these separate national systems? A new wave of technology companies believes the answer lies in combining the lessons we learned from systems like Pix with a powerful new tool, stablecoins, all delivered through a super app. But before we go any further, just a quick definition. What exactly is a stablecoin? Well, it's a type of crypto asset that's designed to hold a steady value, usually because it's pegged to something stable, like the US dollar. The best way to think of it is as a digital dollar that can move on a global network, but without all the wild price swings you see with other cryptocurrencies. A perfect example of this is Project Unify, a new initiative starting up in Asia. Now, instead of just being a simple payment app, it's aiming to be a true financial super app. It combines payments, remittances, and easy on and off ramps for your money all in one place. The key thing here is its ambition to work across borders from day one, using stablecoins that are pegged to local currencies, all running on one unified network. And this is where it all comes together. This project is trying to do for Asia what Pix did for Brazil. It's built on those same core principles we talked about. Make it super easy and cheap to join to create those powerful network effects. But instead of relying on a single country's central bank, it uses blockchain technology as a kind of neutral global bridge to connect all these different countries and their currencies. Which leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? We've seen the blueprint for replacing cash within a nation's borders. So are these new stablecoin-powered super apps the final piece of the puzzle? Could they actually be the technology that finally delivers on the promise of a fast, cheap, and truly global financial system for everyone?